First question is, I was interested in all the historical perspective that was added, and when was the last time you would say this country did have a coherent national security narrative?
Ooh, that's a difficult question. I think the best one we developed was in the aftermath of World War II, when the world was changing dramatically, when the Cold War was forming, and whether the circumstances brought forth the people or the people brought the circumstances, I don't know. But I would say 45 to 50 was a very, very creative period.
This reminds me of the whole discussion of a great person in history. Is it the great man or the great circumstances? The context versus the person.
I don't know which it is.
Well, is that the same in this case? To have the national narrative, does a context need to exist to get us there?
Well, I think it helped, but I think the conditions help produce the narrative. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes in a crisis we react poorly. We slipped into the Vietnam crisis. 9/11, we reacted strongly and positively. Now, I don't think it was always in the right direction, but I think the severity of the crisis and the way it mobilizes people, I think, has a lot to do with it.
So are conditions correct now for this type of discourse and this type of narrative building?
Not really. They're difficult, they're awkward, but there's not a galvanizing point where everybody feels concerned. I don't think yet. It's just people say, oh, it's a complicated world.
You mentioned about how long this might take during the panel, and I wonder, in many ways, what we're talking about here is the post-Cold War hangover, maybe accelerated by 9/11, as we try to figure out what our role in the world is without the Soviet Union staring across the ocean at us. How long does something like this take, this type of readjustment?
Well, it's difficult to say, because the point I was making is that technology, broadly saying globalization, is changing the interrelationship of people and states and everybody else, everything else around the world. And that is affecting the traditional thing. We're still mentally in the 20th century, and the world is moving forward. And one of the difficulties is to transfer your thinking to forward-looking rather than the lessons of the past.
One final question about the process. Congresswoman Harman, from the first time she spoke to the staff here, talked about creating this safe space for these difficult discussions that aren't occurring elsewhere. You were part of the first national conversation. Tell me what you thought about the process.
Well, I think it's great, because what they do is consciously try to get people that have different perspectives and bring them together. So this is not a Republican institute or a Democratic institute or a realist versus idealist, so on. And I think that's very valuable.
General Scowcroft, thanks for joining us.
Nice.